Kia ora and welcome to Eye to Eye. They're like a school of piranhas circling society, seeking to slash, tear, maim and destroy anything that shows any signs of weakness, non-conformity or, heaven forbid, criticises the media. Except in rare and exceptional circumstances or on a ratings war, there's one group who will not be the subject of a concerted campaign of vilification and disparagement by the media, and they will not be brought before Parliament's Privileges Committee. That group is the media itself. That was Winston Peters' speech to Grey Power last month, attacking the media. Here to defend what he said is the man himself, New Zealand First Leader Winston Peters, and New Zealand First MP Doug Woollerton. And to champion the media is News Talk ZB Parliamentary Press Reporter Barry Soper and right-wing media commentator Matthew Hooton. Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora.
And welcome. Well, Winston, you've been vindicated by the Serious Fraud Office. You must be very pleased. A couple of days ago, had a couple of days to absorb it.
Well, it's a total waste of public money and time. Very expensive for New Zealand First as well. Very time-consuming at a critical time, getting ready for the election shortly to be held. And it was designed to bring me and the party down and wipe us out before the election.
You said it was a set-up from the start.
That's right. Well, I was told there's some serious money in town to dig up the dirt on Winston Peters.
Who was setting you up, Winston?
Well, you know, a number of your journalist colleagues told me that.
No, but who was setting you up?
All right, no.
The same group that I've been opposed to for some considerable time. You know they are.
You're talking about Business Roundtable and all that. We'll come to that, Barry. What they do say though in the report that you may have broken some other laws. What other laws are we talking about, Winston?
The plain fact is that they said when they announced this inquiry that the Electoral Commission's responsibilities and the law around the Electoral Commission was not part of their investigation or purview. Right. They've not even been able to hold that thought for 2 months, and they've made a reference which has already been answered by way of declaration to the Electoral Commission. And the law wasn't clear at the time, as Doug well knows. Well, that's the reason why we voted for the Electoral Finance Act to be changed.
Can I just come to you, Doug, because you're president, and the SFO director says New Zealand First donation returns and the auditor's reports on those returns for 205 and 207 appear to be inaccurate. The party's election return for 205 also appears to be incomplete.
Well, I actually resigned as president straight after the 205 election. Yeah. And that gets dealt with later. And I have seen reports in the paper, and it's a fact, that there is a little bit of an issue when people are changing over, new to the job and that sort of a thing. And that is exactly what happened, in fact.
Well, Winston, you've made it clear, and Barry's just coming. I'm going to come to him shortly. You do think you think you don't get a fair go from the media, and in fact you've accused them of inciting hatred towards you. I mean, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say. Look, there's some very good people in the media, and I respect them. But the reality is, the National Party didn't pay its GST. Right. Still hasn't paid its GST. And have you seen a campaign about that?
Didn't go unreported.
Okay,
no,
excuse me. But that's a criminal offence, punishable by imprisonment.
Look, I was at your campaign opening in Auckland here last Sunday, and you painted the picture of media moguls abroad wringing their hands in their ivory towers, seeking to bring you down by some conspiracy. Now, you know that is plainly an absurdity.
Look, mate, I was told by the best of authority and some of your senior colleagues that there's some serious money in town digging up the dirt on New Zealand First, and that was all good 4 months ago.
Who?
Well, I don't think I should repeat a confidence.
Well, no, you should, because you've made the claim and you should back it up.
Barry, you know in your profession you don't betray a confidence.
Okay, can I say to you, Barry, some people do think, I mean, I was reading Chris Trotter's article and he's given you a bit of a barrel. No, be fair, they think some of you have gone after Winston and, it's almost a personal crusade against Winston.
Winston would never have had the problems that he's got now. First of all, forget about the declaration on the pecuniary interest register. If he had declared it, he wouldn't have had the problem that he's got now. But he also would not have had the problem, and I guarantee he knows it, if he had answered questions of the media. And we asked very reasonable questions. He turns attack into abuse, and that's
I actually knew when this campaign was going to start, and I knew that when this campaign was going to end. How would I know that? If it was just merely gossip in the media? Can I come to you,
Matthew, because you've been prominent in the media. I mean, you've attacked Winston from the start, haven't you? You have. You said it's been dishonest. Just why?
Well, I believe that Winston knew about the Spencer Trust from the start. Right. That's certainly the view of Sir Robert Jones. I think Winston faced a dilemma when all this emerged, because
he's clairvoyant.
Okay.
I think Winston faced a dilemma because if there was no fraud, that meant the electoral laws have been broken.
Right.
So what we've learnt from the Serious Fraud Office 2 days ago now is that they've found that there was no fraud. They have found that the money went from the donors, the big business donors that were backing Winston, to the New Zealand First Party in some way.
That's right.
And they found there was no fraud there. Now, what that means is these guys have committed an offence against the Electoral Act because they didn't declare any.
So you don't
money.
accept you don't accept that they've been cleared.
Oh well, they've been cleared on the fraud, but that creates the problem, and that's why the Serious Fraud Office has referred Winston to the police, to the Electoral Commission, and to the Auditor
Why
General
don't you just say,
for him to be investigated.
Most New Zealanders would see this as a bit of a clearance. You don't see it that way?
It's a clearance on the fraud. You see, if
were you surprised by that?
No, because if the money, if the money had never reached the New Zealand First Party, then that would have been a fraud. But what they did is they laundered money through the Spencer Trust to...
Listen to this.
Don't know if I can. What happened? You laundered money.
You didn't swear, did you?
You laundered money.
No, he didn't
you laundered money through the Spencer Trust, like the National Party does with the White and Matter Trust.
So
to the New Zealand First Party. But the difference is that you always lied about the existence of the Spencer Trust and pretended that you alone were funding your party.
Has he finished?
Yeah.
No, I haven't yet.
No, but you always
pretended that you were funding your party from cake stalls and little old ladies, when in fact you were receiving the big business money through the Spencer Trust.
You can reply to that.
You know what the average was for those 15 years of this party's existence?
13,000.
Well, we don't know because you haven't declared it.
Can I finish?
Well, let Winston reply.
Look, don't be like a raging fascist.
No, but
you've got to hear somebody
make sure you're very careful on what you say.
You've made an allegation.
Make sure you're very careful on what you say here.
Average per year.
Right.
This man defends the National Party and the ACT Party, who've had 6 and 7 million in their trust accounts. And he comes and makes these statements. He said that I was a cheat, a liar, and a fraud.
Well, you are.
And he's going to be sued for that because he's not going to get away with that. But that's the kind of behaviour that he's guilty of. And having now had the SFO say there is no fraud, he straight away slides across to something else. He says the police are investigating New Zealand First.
No, they are, that's true.
Well, let me just say this here.
OK, we'll leave Winston.
The police have already seen New Zealand First. The interviews have all been conducted. That's all happened. But he sits there with the aspiration to somehow drive up a malicious cause, a malevolent cause, and give them the colour of right. The truth is there is nothing to investigate.
So why are you investigated by the police and by the Auditor General and by the Electoral Commission?
Most average households...
OK, you answer that question.
Most average households in New Zealand would write out as many cheques in a year as New Zealand First.
Right.
Every third year, there's quite a few. And yet the serious fraud has been in there for how long? 2 months or whatever.
Right.
Which a normal half by accountant... Half by accountant.
You've broken the law.
One at a time. Barry, you're listening to this.
Yeah.
I mean, Winston and Doug are making some sense, or
I sat through the Privileges Committee, and they censured Winston. They heard the same evidence that we all heard that was sitting in there, and there was no way that they could have come down with anything other than a censure. Now, Winston knows that he knows that he's not lily white in this, and I'd suggest that his biggest problem is... Hang on, can I just say, Winston, your biggest problem is
Barry,
that you weren't transparent. You accused everybody else of not being transparent, and you yourself were never transparent about your backing of big business.
You know, Barry, you've been on night after night after night, like some stuck record, repeating that rubbish. Let me say this here. I didn't declare Owen Glenn's donation because I didn't know about it until the 18th of July. Well, you've said that, Barry.
Of course you knew
You've said it every night. Let me have my say now. Mr. Glenn comes to the committee and he tells 28 things which could not be the truth.
And you told a lot of things.
Now, let me tell you this